A very good evening to all of you, and let me extend a very warm welcome on behalf of the Unique Academy. This is the first introductory session, so therefore I am going to discuss few very important though primary fundamental aspects of preparing for the civil services examination. I am going to divide this session of about an hour, or maybe let us say 70-75 minutes, into certain parts. The first, and I'm sure you must have read the title of today's lecture, that is the legacy of the civil services. So I'll briefly touch upon that very first aspect of today's presentation, and then straightway we are going to discuss the scheme and the nature of civil services examination, which is going to include both the UPSC civil services examination as well as the MPSC civil services examination. Format, the structure, and the nature. And then what we are going to elaborately discuss is the kind of preparation that you are supposed to take up. Okay, so let me welcome all of you on behalf of the Unique Academy once again. Now, right in the beginning, I'm going to explain very briefly the format of this batch. Number one, this is not a recorded batch. This is going to be a live online batch. And I'm very proud to share with all of you that this is a very important first initiative this year taken up by the Unique Academy. The second one, from 22nd of June, that is from today till end of December, yeah, maybe max to max the mid of January, that is 15th of January, what we are going to do in the span of about 6.5 months is to utilize this slot for the mains preparation. Okay, and this is going to be a combined batch, that is for the civil services UPSC and the civil services MPSC. So this is going to be the combined format as far as the mains is concerned. But then from 15th of January onwards, or maybe 1st of January onwards, what we are going to do is to separate these batches, because as far as the format of prelims is concerned, and especially the kind of questions which are asked in UPSC prelims and the kind of questions which are asked in MPSC prelims, those questions are quite different from each other. So therefore, the MPSC prelims is going to require slightly a very different kind of preparation, and so is the case of the UPSC preliminary preparation, that is the preparation for the UPSC preliminary examination. So let me repeat it once again, from 22nd of June to end of December, yeah, max to max 15th of January. So this is going to be a combined batch wherein we will discuss the main syllabus, the 4 GS papers, as well as the essay paper. Okay, and then subsequently from January onwards till end of May, let us say, till you write the examination in 2027, we will cater in a different manner as far as the prelims is concerned. So this is first one. The second one, as I already told you, this is going to be a live online batch, number two. Number three, equally important, the study material. We have already uploaded one note which contains the syllabus of the mains examination of UPSC as well as MPSC, the mains examination. And obviously, when I say syllabus, the syllabus of the GS. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that is the first one. You can check out the app and get to know the note and the details of the note. So that is one thing, syllabus. The second thing, which is very important that we have included in the note, is the reference list. And anyway, I'm going to talk about the same UPSC and the MPSC mains examination. Okay, prelims, something that we are going to discuss about it January onwards. You don't worry about that. So this is the second one. So first is the syllabus. The second is the reference list. The third important part of the note that you can check out as far as the app is concerned, the keywords from the previous year question papers. And I'll elaborate upon that. I'll explain that. Don't worry about that. And last but not the least, the fourth element in the note is something that I am going to discuss in an hour, let us say. Okay, so this is about the note. So besides this basic note, we are eventually going to upload on regular basis the notes of, that is the class notes of each and every subject from GS paper 1 to GS paper 4. You shouldn't be worried about that. Those notes are in digital format and you can get to read those formats as far as the app is concerned. This is one thing. But you do not worry about the printed notes, and we are going to send those printed notes through post, through courier, and that would require max to max 15 to 20 days. You don't worry about that. Okay. So this is another thing which is very, very important. Once we conclude the introductory sessions of, let us say, 7 to 8 sessions, in 7 to 8 sessions, then formally speaking, the discussion of the syllabus as part of the classroom teaching shall begin. And then onwards, what we are going to do is to open up 2 subjects, maybe history, economy, history, polity, and you would be well informed, don't worry about that. So once those 2 subjects, that is obviously the GS subjects, are open, we will take it forward until we complete the syllabus of those 2 subjects, GS subject. Then we will go for 2 more GS subject, and that is how we are going to take this batch forward till the end of December. You don't worry about that. So that you can plan your own study, own preparation along with the classroom teaching. So this was another aspect of this batch. Now, let us get started as far as today's presentation is concerned. Now, approaching civil services examination, both UPSC as well as the MPSC. Now, this is something the today's session was titled as, and just one more clarification. In between, I'll be also talking in Hindi as well. Okay, so let us take it forward as a, in the form of a bilingual format. So mainly English, but thoda Hindi में भी मैं बात करूँगा. You don't worry about that. हाँ, just one last thing. So once the batch is regularized, that is routinized, once we conclude all the introductory sessions, you can live chat with the faculty, including me. Don't worry about that. And you can get to know about the questions and queries. You don't worry about that. Second thing, we are going to come up with a group, dedicated group of this batch, and you can share your questions and queries, and our faculty members and other members of the staff will make it a point to answer those queries, respond to your queries. You don't worry about that. Okay. Now, let us get started with the very first aspect, and I'm going to be very, very brief as far as the legacy of civil services in India is concerned. Now, whenever we talk about the civil services in India, okay, something which is very important to be taken note of is this one. That is the colonialism. Okay, and colonialism, that is the British colonialism. We were colony of Britain. Okay, till we gain independence, all of us know that, in 47. Now this colonialism can be divided into, and this is how usually it is done, so into 2 phases. One is the company rule, okay, and the second is the rule of the crown. Okay, now as far as the civil service is concerned, during the colonial period, this service, which is also known as administrative service, bureaucracy, okay, that is obviously the public bureaucracy, but in colonial period, okay, this service was known as the ICS. So this was the name, that is Indian Civil Service. Okay, now this Indian Civil Service, as modern administration and modern bureaucracy, emerged, okay, during the period called as the colonial period. So roughly we can say the beginning of the 18th century. Okay, the death of Aurangzeb in 1707, and then the demise of Mughal Empire. Okay, then the so many foreign trading companies start making inroads into India, so on and so forth. So 1773 is very important as far as the establishment of the company rule is concerned. So 1773 to 1857 revolt. So this period is known as the company rule. And then from 1858 to 1947, this period is known as the period when the crown, that is the British crown, ruled us. Okay, so it was the direct control of the monarchy, the British monarchy here, undoubtedly. So ICS as a modern bureaucratic structure administrative apparatus emerged during the colonial period. And the first aspect of that phase of was the company rule, and the other was the what? The rule of the crown. Now, during the company rule, this service was known as the Indian Civil Service. But when the rule of crown became the reality here from the 1857, the year 1850, sorry, not 57, but 1858, then that came to be known as something called as this imperial, sorry, this civil service came to be known as the imperial service. Okay. And then ultimately what happens with independence? This is came to be known as the Indian Administrative Service. So this is just a brief outline of the historical background of the Indian Civil Service, which came to be known as Imperial Service under the rule of the Crown, that is 1858 to 1947. And after independence, this ICS was transformed into something called as Indian Administrative Service. So this is one aspect. Now, very briefly and at a primary level, now the ICS, that is Indian Civil Service, during the colonial period, consisted of the senior bureaucrats or senior governmental officials. And mainly we can identify two such services in terms of domains. One was the revenue, okay, the collector, that is the colloquial name, and then the other is the police. Okay, so the public officials, the government officials, the company officials under the company rule are responsible for collection of revenue. So that was one part of the civil services, and the other was obviously the police. And there were so many other aspects of that. Now, being senior public officials, या government officials, या company officials, they recruited the uppermost layer of the administration. And obviously, this service as a modern kind of administrative service, yeah, bureaucratic service, okay, governmental service, was created by the company, obviously, in order to implement its agenda. So therefore, the senior officers ultimately contributed to the company rule by executing the laws and policies made by the British East India Company and then subsequently the British Crown. Okay, so thus the ICS and the Imperial Service are substantially responsible for colonialism, that is establishing this rule here, but importantly sustaining this rule by taking up the responsibility of implementation and execution. That is one thing. Now, when we just briefly take note of the conditions around Indian independence. So India witnessed partition on the basis of religion, and then the subsequent communal rights, another development. Then along with that, we had around 550 princely states, and there was a Herculean kind of task and challenge to assimilate them into Indian Union. Few princely states were not ready to become part of Indian Union. They wanted to stay independent and autonomous. But Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel contributed very substantially in assimilating those princely states into Indian Union. We know this historical past briefly. Now here at this juncture, the previous ICS, the Imperial Service, and then which subsequently came to be known as the Indian Administrative Service, played a very important role. Now, India was born as an independent nation state on 15th of August 1947. All of us are very well aware of that. However, given these developments that I just referred to, partition on the basis of religion, then the communal rights, the challenge of assimilating those princely states into Indian Union, and most importantly, the task of nation building as well as the state building, that require some sort of continuity in the administration in India. And I think as far as ensuring that continuity is concerned, the ICS and the Imperial Service contributed a lot. So this is a very important dimension of that. And by the way, this service is also known as the steel frame. And this steel frame, so it has both. It has sort of a negative connotation and it has also a positive connotation. We will look into that later on subsequently. You don't worry about that. Okay. Now, we become independent. We started implementing the project of democratic republic. You will study that as part and parcel of the Indian constitution. And then onwards, the Indian administrative service, there are almost 20 to 22, yeah, at times 24, 25 civil services which are part of the Indian administrative service, broadly speaking. So these services as civil service became very, very important. Just one last thing as far as the legacy is concerned. I am sure most of you must have read about Satyendranath Tagore, who was the first Indian to crack the Indian civil service. Okay. Then you have C.D. Deshmukh from Maharashtra. Okay. So who qualified in this Indian civil service. We can take such many names. Okay. The first women IS officer, first women IFS officer, first scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, ICS officer, IS officer, IPS officer, so on and so forth. Now, whenever we think about administration and bureaucracy, and as part of that Indian civil service, the most important task that which comes to our mind is the implementation and execution of laws and policies. Now, as part of democracy, we know for sure that India being a democracy, we have three branches of government. So legislature, executive, and judiciary. As far as the executive branch is concerned, it is divided into two elements. So one is the political executive, the government of the day. Okay, now we have NDA government at the central level, obviously led by the BJP, because BJP happens to be the single largest party in Lok Sabha, along with the coalition partners which are part and parcel of the NDA. So the government happens to be the political aspect of the executive branch, that is executive as branch of the government. But then there is another element of the executive which is known as the non-political component, yeah, element of the executive. Now this non-political component, yeah, element of the executive is generally known as Indian bureaucracy, Indian administration. Now bureaucracy, Indian administration is a mega mechanism which includes the military services, the paramilitary services, the diplomatic service, okay, judicial services, and last but not the least, the civil services as well. So this is how our administration, obviously the public administration, public bureaucracy, Indian public bureaucracy is constituted of 3-4 important public officials, and one important public official, category of public officials happens to be the civil service. Okay, civil service. So always keep in mind that. So let me congratulate all of you for choosing this career and to be part of the legacy of the great legacy of the Indian civil service. And post-independent, this service has contributed a lot in nation building, in state building, in facilitating democracy here, and sustaining democracy and widening democracy. Now we know for sure that the civil service also has its flip side, undoubtedly. There is a lot of corruption, there is a lot of nepotism, so on and so forth, political interference, so on and so forth. But besides that flip side, the constructive, the positive side also is equally important. So let me congratulate you, all of you, for selecting this as a career option. Now let us take it forward. Now, what is the way to join the civil services? All of you know that. There are two ways. So one is write the open competitive examination, that is appearing for the open competitive examination. And for that, we have two constitutional commissions. At the union level, we have UPSC, and at the state level, now if we take the example of Maharashtra, then we have the MPSC. All of you know that. So these constitutional commissions have the responsibility of holding examination on regular basis, on yearly basis, in order to select the qualified candidate for the civil services, both UPSC as well as MPSC. So first option, first means of getting into the civil services of the union and the state is to write this open competition, which is known as the UPSC Civil Services Examination and the MPSC Civil Services Examination. This is a very primary fact. The other one is, if you join the state administration, then through seniority, okay, you can climb up in the ladder and become the senior bureaucrat. And so is the case of even the union administration. So promotion is one route, but directly, if you want to be appointed as IAS, as an IPS, then the means is, or the medium is, okay, writing the examination. And these examinations are known as the civil services examination. Now, in coming 1 year, you are going to prepare for the civil services, whether the UPSC or the MPSC. Okay. If we consider the journey of preparation for the UPSC or MPSC civil services, then let me tell you that this journey is going to be, on one hand, very demanding, very tough, very challenging, undoubtedly. But on the other hand, this is also going to be empowering and enlightening. Now, the civil services examinations is known as one of the challenging examinations for the simple reason, if you take note of the 3 stages, number of papers, multiple subjects, vast syllabus, and very dynamic nature of the examination. If you look at the kind of questions which are asked by UPSC or MPSC in prelims or the mains examination, we can get to know, we can gauge the dynamism. Okay. And last but not the least, this examination requires not only academic skills, such as to be able to read carefully, comprehend everything with all its dimensions, to be able to write effectively, and communicate with the panel members when it comes to the interview. There is no doubt about that. These academic skills are very essential as far as the civil services examination is concerned. However, besides these academic skills, extracurricular, yeah, broadly we can say the non-academic skills also are required to be able to plan properly, to put that plan into practice, into effect, let us say. That is another one. To keep oneself motivated, to have that self-confidence, so on and so forth. So both academic abilities as well as non-academic ability is the requirement of this examination. Therefore, this is known as one of the challenging examination. Now, having said this, even if this is a challenging examination because of, again, the cutthroat competition, we can approach this examination with a planned effort, and that is what we are going to take note of. The very first aspect of the planned preparation is this one, and this is a very primary stage, but nonetheless we need to be very careful about that. Comprehending the examination. So what is mean by planned effort? Planned effort का मतलब क्या है? तो उसका पहला ही point है, the first point is comprehending the examination. Now we know for sure there are 3 stages. There is interview for both UPSC as well as MPSC civil service examination, which is for 275 marks, and we will talk about that later on. Then the mains, right in the middle of the civil services examination, and mains is a very important stage or phase of the civil services examination. Anyway, we are going to talk about that. And then the prelims, the very beginning of this civil services examination, and that is what we are going to start with. So comprehending the examination means understanding very carefully with all its aspects the 3 stages or phases of the civil services examination. Let us get started with the one. The prelims is the initial stage of civil services examination. All of you must be very well aware of that. But what is the format? The format is objective. You are not supposed to write a word there. You have to just darken the correct option. Okay. So tick mark, let us make that simple. Okay. Objective. But obviously, besides being objective, it is based on MCQs, that is the multiple choice questions. It has got negative marking system, and prelims is basically a qualifying test. Okay, so MCQ, negative marking system, and qualifying test. So these are the other 3 aspects of the nature of the preliminary examination. But I am going to focus on this objective nature of the preliminary examination. Okay, now what kind of preparation does preliminary examination require? Anyway, as far as this batch is concerned, we are going to start with the prelims preparation, that is classroom teaching as well as your preparation from January onwards. So I am going to say and clarify very few things, but very, very important. If this is objective in character, then what kind of preparation are you going to require? A candidate is going to require. You must have utmost clarity as far as your reading, revising, and overall understanding is concerned. Okay, for example, in Constitution, we have preamble. But what is meant by preamble? we have fundamental rights. So what is mean by fundamental right? So if there are certain concepts, then we need to have utmost clarity about the concept. And in Indian polity, we are going to come across so many concepts: secularism, parliamentary democracy, federalism, so on and so forth. So clarity as far as the concepts in each and every subject are concerned. Now, sharpness, you are going to, and along with that, the precision. You are going to get to read a lot of facts in history, in geography, in economy, in ethics, so on and so forth. Facts. Then a lot of data, a lot of informative stuff in each and every subject for that matter. Now, while reading that informative stuff, factual stuff, data, historical facts, articles from Constitution of India, you need to be very sharp and you need to be very, very precise. So clarity, sharpness, and precision. Okay, these are the essential requirements of the preliminary examination, given the fact that prelims happens to be an objective examination. Now, how are we supposed to do the same thing? Now look at that. Beside these, consolidation of the factual, that is the informative part, वो तो करना ही करना है आपको. That is what I was talking about, the sharpness and the precision that you are going to require as far as the factual stuff is concerned, the informative stuff is concerned. Because beyond a limit, we cannot apply our logic and reasoning as far as the factual stuff is concerned, informative part is concerned. Facts are, information is, या data is that aspect of the subject which requires multiple reading. बार बार आपको वो पढ़ना पड़ेगा, इसलिए revision becomes important. So you will have to consolidate the factual stuff या informative stuff. But besides the factual, there is one more dimension of each and every subject that you are going to come across. This is something called as the analytical stuff from the subject. Now, what is mean by analysis? In course of this batch, we will look into all such words and terms. But as of now, analysis means getting to know what? The nature of something. Okay, for example, we as a democracy. Okay, so let us get started with a very primary thing. Are we a democracy? Okay, so you would say, yes, we are democracy. But on what basis do we say that? Do we claim that we are a democracy? Then you will immediately answer, haven't you read the Constitution of India? Haven't you checked out the Constitution of India? So if you read Constitution of India, you would realize that, okay, that we are a democracy. Okay, so are we a democracy? Yes, we are a democracy, but we have to cross-check that. We have to have some evidence, number one. So we got to know what kind of nation state we are, what kind of political system we are, what kind of government we have. That is a democracy. Number one. Number two, why? Why did we decide to go for democracy? Now, the answer is not simple. We have to get back to the Indian freedom struggle, the national movement, so many leaders, so many organizations, so many agitations, then the Constituent Assembly, the debate in the Constituent Assembly, so on and so forth. So there was a reasoning. There were certain causal factors which made us accept and adopt the democracy. So why? Reason. Okay. And then importantly, the consequences of something. So analysis is a process wherein we unfold something. We dissect something. And once we dissect something, X, Y, Z, then in the process of dissecting, dissection, unfolding, we get to see certain things as causes, and then we get to see certain things as the consequence, as the effect. So simply speaking, analysis is nothing but establishing cause, effect, relationship. Always keep in mind that. Okay. And last but not the least, the current aspect. So geography is going to have current, so is the case of economy, so is the case of polity, so on and so forth. So facts, analysis, and the current. These are the three very important aspects of any subject for the preliminary examination. Now, as part of the preparation for preliminary examination, two type of reading is going to be important. One is the extensive. Now, extensive का मतलब क्या है? Whatever you are required to read. And there are three elements of the reading list. One is the NCERT. The second is at least one reference book for each subject. And the third is the class note. So this is what we mean by extensive. NCERT textbook, one reference book, and number three, the class note. And as far as the reference list is concerned, let me refer to this once again. This has been already uploaded in our, on our app. You can check it out. The reference list you can get to see for each and every. Now, extensive is something which must include all the references. NCERT as textbook, reference book for one subject, that is at least one for each subject, and the third is the class note. So extensive. Now, the intensive one. Just add one more. We have to also read one newspaper, okay, maybe 1 hour, max to max 1.5 hours to begin with, but the current material that we will provide you, don't worry about that. So this is extensive. Intensive means reading something again and again and thereby diving deep in the given subject. So it's a deep reading, it's a reflective reading, it is rereading something so that you can get to know the details, the nitty-gritties of the subtle aspects of the given subject. And you don't worry about that. You will become habitual of the intensive reading. Okay. Last but not the least, this is something that you require as part of the preliminary examination. A revision is critically important. Now, reading something once or twice, maybe thrice is not going to be sufficient for you, given the format of the prelims object. Okay, so you will have to read it again and again, carefully, process it, maybe making certain micro notes as far as the prelims is concerned, and then again revising that. And last but not the least, this is equally critically important, practicing as many MCQs, that is a multiple choice questions, as possible as far as the prelims is concerned. So students, this is what you are supposed to do as far as the prelims is concerned. We are going to get back to the prelims from January onwards. Don't worry about that. Now let us take it forward. This is a very important phase as far as the UPSC-MPSC Civil Services examination is concerned. Now, I know for sure that all of you must be very well aware of the mains format, but nonetheless, I'll write down few aspects that is those are fundamental in nature. Okay. Now, mains is for 1750 marks. Now, GS 1000, optional. You have to choose one optional for 500 marks. And then comes the third important component, that is the essay for 250. So it is 1750 marks. Now, besides these three components, the UPSC mains contain two language papers. So one is the compulsory English and other is the Indian language, if you are talking about UPSC mains. Then as far as the MPSC mains is concerned, in MPSC mains, again, you have compulsory English as a language paper, and the second is the compulsory Marathi, because there you would be writing MPSC means the civil service of the state of Maharashtra, and therefore Maharashtra's language is Marathi. So Anivarya Marathi. Okay. Now these two language papers in UPSC as well as MPSC, these are qualifying papers. Each of them enjoy the weightage of 300 marks, and out of 300, you have to get just 25%, that is 75 in English and 75 in Indian language as far as UPSC is concerned, and compulsory Marathi, that is Anivarya Marathi, if you are writing MPSC mains. There also you have to secure 25% mark, that is the 75 marks out of 300. Now getting back to the GS, the mega component of mains, the second one is the optional and third one is the essay. Okay. Now this is a just brief outline of the mains examination, but what is the format of the mains examination? It is written in character. And the moment we say written in character, you are going to get to see the question in question paper. Okay. That question has to be read by you carefully, and that is to be answered by you. Okay. You are supposed to write the answer. While writing answer, the most important thing that you have to pay attention to, Okay, fine. You will read question very carefully, maybe twice, and thereby get to know the exact demand of the question. And that is a very primary requirement. But once you understand the question, then you have to write the answer. And while writing answer, you have to be very aware of and therefore be careful about the word limit. For 10 marker question, there is a word limit of 150 words. For 15 marker question, we are talking about GS, then you have the word limit of 250 words. For 20 marker question that we come across in optional, you have to write answer in about 350 words, yeah, max to max 400 words. And for essay, so one essay is for 125 marks, which is to be written in around 1000 to 1200 words. Okay, so word limit is very important, and here your writing ability, your ability to express, put across things, okay, is being assessed by, evaluated by the UPSC in a sense. Okay, so therefore we have to be very careful about that. Again, you have to answer the questions keeping in mind the weightage enjoyed by each question. That is the marks, 10 mark, 15 mark, 20 mark, 125 mark. This is a simple one. Okay. However, while writing answer, as I stated earlier, the demand of the question has to be understood. The demand of the question, the requirement of the question has to be understood as correctly as possible. And therefore, this very first sheet that we have uploaded today, okay, contains around 28 to 29 keywords from the previous year question papers. Now, if you see the previous year question papers of the mains examination, especially of UPSC from 2013 to 25, and as far as the MPSC present format is concerned, so we have 1 year question papers available of 2025 MPSC mains examination, which happened in this year, that is the April and May of 2026. So उसका तो एक ही क्वेश्चन पेपर यानी कि जीएस का एक 1, 2, 3, 4 और एसए का एक पेपर है, आपका जो भी ऑप्शनल है वो आपको एमपीएससी मेंस का अवेलेबल होगा. Now demand of each question can be understood by you. So one, by reading the question carefully. What is the topic which is asked in the question? What issue is asked in the question? So what? So the subject matter, the core idea, the issue, the topic. That is one thing. And we can understand that by reading question carefully. But what of that topic? Whether you are asked to explain that, discuss that, comment that, evaluate that, examine that, या critically examine that, या illustrate that. These are known as the key terms from questions, and these terms are guiding terms. So you are supposed to answer the question, okay, about some issue, about some topic, about some challenge, whatever it is, but you are expected to and asked to do something, to discuss, to evaluate, to examine, to illustrate, so on and so forth. So therefore, the demand of question, no doubt, is important to be understood by you, but in order to understand the demand of the question appropriately, you should check out all such terms from previous year question papers. Okay, that is first one. Now, yes, you are going to write, but your writing has to be like this. Your answer has to be like this. A very well organized answer. It should not be like a patchwork. आपने इधर से कुछ उठाया है, उधर से कुछ उठाया है, और ऐसा हचपच ऐसा कुछ तो आपने आंसर लिखा है. That is not at all welcome. A very well organized. Each answer must have a brief introduction, but relevant introduction, relevant to the question, relevant to the topic, the issue which is asked in the question. Then the main body of your answer, okay, again depending upon the expectation and the demand of the or requirement of the question, in body of your answer, you have to deal with all those aspects and facets and points that the given question demand. So your body hua. And then you have to conclude your answer. So this is how we can think about something called as a very well organized answer. Now, this mains examination, that is the mains examination, obviously requires understanding of the paper, of the subject, of the syllabus of the given subject, no doubt about that. But this word is very important. What kind of understanding do you require? Do we need as far as the mains examination is concerned? The comprehensive one. concept should be part of that, the factual informative stuff should be part of that, explanatory stuff should be part of that, analytical stuff should be part of that, and current and contemporary aspect of the given subject या given topic should also form part and parcel of this comprehensive understanding. Okay, ये थोड़ा मैंने एक्सप्लेन किया है. नाउ टेक्सचुअल यानी कि रीडिंग अ टेक्स्ट से फॉर एग्जांपल एंड टू बी एबल टू मेक सेंस ऑफ दिस. टेक्सचुअल मीनिंग, ये टेक्स्ट क्या कहता है, द लिटरल मीनिंग ऑफ द राइटिंग फ्रॉम अ नोट से फॉर एग्जांपल या फ्रॉम एनी रेफरेंस बुक. बट फॉर द मेंस एग्जामिनेशन यू शुड बी इन अ पोजिशन टू गो बियॉन्ड द टेक्सचुअल मीनिंग. सो हम बहुत बार कहते हैं बिटवीन द लाइन्स, what is the implication, what is the implied meaning of something, what are the ramifications of something. Now that requires something called as going beyond the textual meaning, the literal meaning of the text of the reference. The hidden meaning, you can say that the hidden meaning between the lines as well as the implications. Again this word analytical reappears here, and for the mains examination, besides the concept, besides the factual stuff and informative stuff, what stands out as a quality that you require in the mains examination while understanding the stuff as part of mains examination as well as writing as part of the mains examination is the analytical ability. And what is analysis? Yeah, analytical process establishing cause effect relationship. So you are supposed to dissect something, you are supposed to unfold something, and as part of dissecting या dissection बोलिए उसको, or unfolding, you are supposed to set aside the causes, the reasons, and then set aside the consequences or the effect. So cause effect relationship, and this ability, each one of us possess this ability, but what matters here is to what extent do we develop this ability. So from right from day one, you should be very careful and attentive towards something called as developing analytical ability. While listening to the classroom discussion, while reading the textbook, while reading the reference book, the class notes, so on and so forth, that ability would help you a lot. Now, in mains, you are going to read the textbook. For mains, you are going to read, I'm repeating it, the reference book and importantly the class note. However, you should make it a point to what? Interlink the static part that you are going to get to know from the books and the reference book with what? The current and the contemporary events. Okay, मराठीमध्ये त्याला जिवंत करणं असं म्हणतात म्हणजे. So your understanding and your writing should not limit only to the books. Okay, so yes, we are going to get to know various concepts and ideas from the book, no doubt about that. That is going to be a very important source. Okay, but once we, and so many other stuff. Okay, so concepts, analysis, ideas, theories, and every sort of knowledge is that we are going to get to know from the book. Okay, the resource material. However, once we understand that, okay, we are supposed to relate it and link with the surrounding, and there the current and contemporary aspect becomes very very important. So मैंने एक आइडिया पढ़ा है, मुझे आइडिया का मतलब पता चला है, then subsequently I must try to establish a link with, connect it with the reality. So that interlinking ability is very very important, and you would develop that, don't worry about that. Then subsequently you must have this prospective, that is the ability to think prospectively. That is what is likely to happen with our economy, with our polity, with our democracy down the line, say for example after 20 years, after 25 years. So these kinds of prospective questions also are likely to be asked by UPSC-MPSC. You can check out the PYQs, and along with that the prescription. Now you always keep in mind that a civil servant, whether being selected by writing the UPSC or MPSC, a civil servant is not only expected to understand the issue, a challenge, a problem, but also must have the capacity, the ability to suggest measures and the reforms to address that problem. So दोनों expected है to what? Get to know the problem, the issue, the challenge, but also to be able to suggest something in order to deal with the challenge. So as if we can say, if civil servant is a coin, then it has two sides. So understanding the problem, comprehending the problem, to be in knowledge of the problem, to be aware of the problem on one hand, and also in possession of a knowledge wherein you can suggest right reforms, realistic reforms, so on and so forth. So therefore, prospective, okay, but prescriptive, suggestions. You just check out the PYQs and then you will realize that in about 25 to 30% questions, as far as the GS are concerned, okay, you are expected to suggest reforms, suggest right measures, okay, so on and so forth, as far as the issues are concerned. Now, last but not the least, you are going to require a lot of knowledge and you are going to gain a lot of knowledge as part of the process as far as preparing for the civil services examination is concerned. Absolutely, no doubt about that. But you have to ultimately present this knowledge how effectively. Now, presenting here means writing, expressing yourself in the form of the writing. So we can conclude the mains discussion by saying that the mains examination, whether it is UPSC or MPSC, going to require a comprehensive understanding, okay, from you. And number two, that comprehensive understanding has to be put across, has to be represented, has to be expressed and written down as effectively as possible. And anyway, you do not worry about that. We are going to have special sessions on writing skills, the different aspects of the writing skill. What is a good piece of writing and how are we supposed to develop that ability? You don't worry about that. Okay. Now, reading syllabus is the most obvious primary fundamental, okay, aspect of the preparation and the planned preparation that we are discussing. Again, I'll refer to this note. It contains the syllabus. The very first element of this note is the syllabus of both UPSC as well as MPSC. You can check it out. So read the syllabus carefully, multiple times, maybe 3 times, 4 times, so that you can get to know as to what history contains, what geography contains, what polity contains, so on and so forth, and get to know the exact scope of the given subject. Breakdown into chapters, topics, themes, and sub-themes. You will realize, you will get to know about all these aspects of reading syllabus. Now, question paper analysis. I'm not going to discuss about prelims because we'll do that from January onwards, but focus on the mains examination. Now, if we are talking about UPSC, then UPSC's present prelims format was adopted in 2011, that is introduced in 2011. So 2011 से लेकर 26 का UPSC prelims. Now, if you are talking about MPSC prelims, then you can well start from 2012 to 26. Okay. Now, UPSC mains format was introduced. The current format of UPSC mains was introduced in 2013. So 2013 से लेकर 20 से हम नहीं कह सकते 25, because UPSC's mains examination for this year it's scheduled in August. Okay, so 13 to 25 UPSC mains examination, but MPSC mains examination only 1 year previous year question papers are available. But nonetheless, what I would request all of you, especially those who are preparing for the MPSC civil services, they should also make it a point to check out the UPSC PYQs of essay and importantly the GS. Now, how are you supposed to analyze the PYQ? And by the way, let me clarify it, even if you know this as primary part of this process. PYQ reading, PYQ understanding, and PYQ analysis is very important. Okay, now why is it important? First, it is by looking into the PYQs that we get to know as to what is the scope of the given subject, what kind of questions are asked on by the UPSC or the MPSC on the given subject, on the given topic. And number two, that is going to give you a kind of direction. We can get to know as to what should be the direction of preparing Indian polity, of economy, ethics, so on and so forth. So to channelize one's own preparation in right direction, that we require the PYQ analysis. Now there are various formats of doing this PYQ, that is a previous year question papers analysis. So one is the year wise. Okay, so let us think about 25. So 25 essay and 4 GS papers. Okay, 24, 23, 22, so on and so forth. Okay, paper wise. Now, if you are talking about UPSC means examination, 2013, pick GS1, 2013 to 25. Pick GS2, again start from 2013 and 25 till 25. GS3, GS4, paper wise. Essay paper 2013 to 25. Now subject wise. Now in GS1 we have history, we have geography, and we have society. So pick history and then start reading questions on history, obviously from GS1 from 2013 to 25. And then section wise also, in history we have 4 sections. Indian heritage and culture, then modern world history from 1800s, then modern Indian history, and the last section, 4th section of history happens to be the post-independent India. Okay, so section-wise classification of question also can be done, at least in regard with few subjects such as the history. And last stage in the format of PYQ analysis should be the topic, should be the chapter. For example, now in modern Indian history, the very first chapter, if you check out the syllabus, is the decline of the Mughal Empire. So it is the 1800th century, decline of the Mughal Empire. Now you can check out from 2013 to 25 as to how many questions and what kind of questions were asked on the very first topic from modern Indian history, which is also known as the early Indian history, early modern history, that is the decline of the Mughal Empire. Okay, 1857 revolt, so on and so forth. Now in Constitution of India, we have preamble, we have fundamental rights, we have federalism, we have parliamentary system, so on and so forth. So you can pick that topic and check out as to how many questions and what kind of questions were asked on the given topic, given chapter. So year, paper, subject, section, and chapter. This is how we are going to, you are supposed to take it up. Now the method. As a primary step, now if you haven't read PYQ, please start doing that. So that is as part of the primary step. Once your preparation is started, and today is the best day, okay, we already started off with the preparation. So check out at least the year-wise question papers after completion of every chapter of the subject. So as I stated earlier, so after the conclusion of the introductory sessions of, let us say, 7 and 8, okay, then we will routinize the classroom teaching. And once the first chapter of maybe history, maybe geography, maybe economy, whatever it is completed as far as the classroom discussion is concerned, you can look into the PYQs on that topic, on that chapter. Okay. And last but not the least, you will have to once again get back to the PYQs, that is read the PYQs, but for what purpose? To anticipate the similar kind of questions which are likely to be asked by either the UPSC or the MPSC. This is generally known as reading the mind of the UPSC, reading the mind of the MPSC. And believe me, you would develop that capacity. Okay. Now, reference list, I am not going to say much about that because this note already contains the references for UPSC mains and the references for the MPSC mains examination. Okay, so you can check it out. But NCERT textbook, one reference book for each subject, and the class notes, you don't worry about it. These are the 3 major sources. Newspaper, you can well start with, as far as MPSC is concerned, with Indian Express. And for UPSC, ideally, it is the Hindu. At least 1 hour a day, not more than that to begin with. So that is how you can take it forward. And anyway, we are going to have a separate session on current events and reading newspaper. You don't worry about that. Okay. So the reference list. Now the planning. As I stated earlier, from 22nd of June, yani ki this day onwards, okay, till end of December. So whatever slot you are going to get as part of the Mains preparation, what are we supposed to deal with? GS, essay, the current events. Even if current events are part of GS, I have mentioned it separately because that is a very important aspect, and then the optional. So whatever time slot that we are going to get, say at least 6 months. Okay. So therefore, those 6 months, the slot of 6 months is to be planned properly, is to be split and allocated to each and every GS paper subject on one hand and the optional subject on the other hand. And we'll look into that. So this is quite interesting. We'll check it out. Now, on daily basis, if you want to think about a day, we are going to have a class of 1 to 1.5 hours. Newspaper, 1 max to max 1.5 hours. So 3 hours are gone. And whatever slot that you are going to get as a full-timer, maybe 8 hours, maybe 7 hours. So you can decide the subject that you are going to read in those 7 hours or 6 hours, if you are a full-timer. Now, if you are a working professional, then as I stated right in the beginning, Saturday, Sunday may be holiday for you, that is the off. So 10 hours on Saturday, 10 hours from Sunday, so 20 hours. And then whatever you get as a working professional from Monday to Friday. So add that, and maybe 30, 35 hours a week, yeah, maybe 40 hours a week. That is how you can calculate the time that is to be going to be available for you. Now, you can come up with a format for a week, the plan for the week. So attending classes, that is going to be a routine thing from Monday to Friday, and then subjects that you are going to take up as part of the weekly schedule. Now, again, I am repeating it. We are going to get started with 2 subjects, 2 GS subjects. So, first part of the week, 1 subject, the second part of the week, the second subject. And along with that, you can divide the week into those 2 subjects. Okay. So that is how you can plan your week. The cycles. Now, when we say cycles, we can well say we are almost at the end of the June. So July and August, first cycle. Okay. So July and August as first cycle. Then September and October, the second cycle. This is just for sake of convenience, to have, in order to have clarity. And then November and the December. Now, splitting this slot of 6 months into 3 broad cycles, you can change the internal sort of, let us say, time slot. You can even think about the first cycle of 3 months. And then the remaining 3 months can be split like 2 months, the second cycle, and the remaining one as the first. So, sorry, 1 month. So 3 months, 2 months, 1 month. This may sound a bit technical. What I'm trying to say is the 6 months time slot has to be classified into, segregated into cycles which are convenient for you. For what purpose? The very important purpose is this, so that you can plan your preparation. What are you going to do in July and August? What are you plan to do in September and October? And what is it that you are planning to do in November and December? So a macro plan of 6 months, a forest view of the 6 months, in which you are going to take note of the GS, the optional, and the essay. These are the 3 important components of your mains examination. Okay, so cycle. So this is just for sake of convenience, and you can plan the cycle maybe 2 months, 2 months, 2 months. This is an equal division. 3 months, 2 months, 1 month. But you should have clarity as to what you are going to plan in each and every cycle. The format can be dividing a day. Now, say for example, if you are going to get 8 hours a day, then straightway, as part of dividing a day, you can split the day, that is the 8 hours of the day, into 2 parts. So 4 hours for history, 4 hours for polity, depending upon you. But then there is another format of dividing the week. So Monday to Wednesday, 1 subject, 8 hours a day, if that is what you get. And then from Thursday to Saturday, you can go for the second GS subject. So this is how you can do, but you can do this till 20th of July. or max to max end of July, because from 20th of July we are going to start with the optional lectures. So आपका हफ्ता दो हिस्सों में बंटने वाला है. Your week is going to be divided into two parts. One is the GS and other is the optional subject that we are going to introduce from 20th of July. और हाँ, क्लासेस तो 20 जुलाई को शुरू होने वाले हैं, लेकिन एक दो हफ्ता इंट्रोडक्शन होता है, सो जुलाई एंड तक आपको समय मिल सकता है. सो विच एवर फॉर्मेट सूट्स यू, दिस इज योर कन्वीनियंस. You can think of dividing a day, okay, of let us say 7 to 8 hours into two slots. Yeah, you can decide to divide a week depending upon your convenience. Okay. Now the preparation. Now this is going to be the last part of this speech. Okay. And this is a very important one. What should be the part and parcel of the process called as a preparation? Okay. Various aspects, various facets, so on and so forth. Now the first one, reading from all sources. When we say all, NCERT, reference book and the class note. But how are you supposed to read it? This is very important. Chapter wise. Let us take example of Indian Constitution, yeah, Indian polity. Now the basic NCERT textbook that is suggested for Constitution is Constitution at Work, 11th standard NCERT. Okay, so first chapter, say historical background of making of Constitution from NCERT, first chapter. Then the same chapter from the class note, because the very first chapter in class note on Constitution of India is on historical background of making of Constitution. Okay, the same chapter, but from the note. And then the third source that you are supposed to refer to for Constitution or polity is the reference book. So NCERT, class note and reference book. But how are you going to read the three sources chapter wise? Then take this example of example of the same subject, again the Constitution, yeah, Indian polity. Preamble, reading preamble from NCERT, the topic preamble, reading the same topic from the reference book, second the note, and then reading the same topic preamble from the reference book. So you would be reading one chapter from three sources, NCERT, class note and reference book. Okay, now as far as your understanding, that is the comprehending the subject is concerned, whether history, geography, whatever it is, then the conceptual part is something which is to be very carefully studied, understood. We cannot think of mugging up concepts. Rote learning doesn't help us here. Concepts are to be understood. Concepts are to be made sense of. So what is secularism? What is GDP? So on and so forth. Every subject has a set of concepts. So textbooks are essential for that, and the classroom discussion. Every faculty is going to make it a point to explain all fundamental concepts as far as each and every subject is concerned. You don't worry about that. Second one, processing this stuff called as the information, facts and data. Okay, and combining this with something called as that we talked about a while ago, that is the analytical part of the given subject. Okay, and last but not the least, as far as the scope of the preparation is concerned in terms of dimension, the current and contemporary events. So let me repeat it once again. So conceptual part is the fundamental foundational part for a given subject. Then information, facts, data, another aspect. Analytical aspect, equally very important, rather more important when it comes to the mains examination. And then the current and contemporary events. Now, while preparing current and contemporary events, you should not limit your preparation only to the factual stuff, to the informative stuff. Current and contemporary events also have the analytical aspect. Okay, and that analytical aspect has to be studied very carefully by you. And anyway, we are going to have a separate session on current and contemporary events. Don't worry about that. Okay, next, this is the last part. Now you are going to read from all sources. Topic wise reading is what you are going to undertake. While reading concepts, informative stuff, analytical stuff, and current and contemporary aspect is what you are going to take note of. Now, the subsequent phases, micro notes is very important. You have to, and we are discussing about the mains examination. So for mains, micro notes are compulsory. Even if we are going to provide you elaborate class notes in digital form, in the app, and even the printed notes, okay, to be sent to you in a fortnight, don't worry about that. But reading textbook, one reference book, and the class note. The ultimate note has to be something called as of you, yeah, from you is the micro note. So while reading everything, be very careful, underline the important stuff, read it once again, use the highlighter, and then while reading the same reference for the third time, please keep in mind this, look at it as a code of conduct. Do not think of making micro notes, yeah, preparing short notes before you read something at least twice. At least twice. Okay. So micro notes. Micro notes are deadly important. So that you can revise all important aspects of any topic. Number two, thereby you can guarantee that, you can ensure that every stuff is there in your answer. Okay. Otherwise, it would be very, very difficult to ensure a dense answer, including all important elements of the topic, let us say. Okay. And the subsequent thing is, if you have micro notes, you would be in a better position to revise that subject in minimum amount of time. कम दिनों में आप उसको रिवाइज कर सकते हो. Okay. Revision, yes. For prelims, revision is important, but so is the case of the mains examination. Okay. We cannot recollect if we read something only twice. You have to read a lot in the mains examination, textbook and so on and so forth, so many subjects, including the optional, so on and so forth. So revision is very important. Okay. Then the important step is the answer writing. So as and when the topic is completed of a subject, yeah, from a subject, do read all references on that, including the class note, process that, come up with your micro note, and write answer on those questions asked on या pertaining that topic. धीरे 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 आपको ये along with classroom teaching you have to do that. Then this is again a very important ability that you are going to require, developing या building critical analytical या critical thinking ability. सिंपल सी भाषा में, let us not take anything for granted and start asking questions to each and everything, so that we can be very certain and sure about everything. Okay. Because you have found out the right reasoning, found out the evidence for something, so आपके पास आधार है उसका, और उसकी वजह से आप कह रहे हो कि ये ऐसा है. Okay. So cross-checking everything, verifying everything, and in order to do the same thing, asking questions. Okay, this is something which is going to be very important as far as developing critical thinking ability is concerned. Simple सी भाषा में, let us not take anything for granted. Let us cross-check that, ascertain that, and then only you can have what you can say that yes, this is what it is. This is the last one. Every student thinks about something called as the creativity, out of box thinking. Toppers, you must have watched the videos of the toppers. Your seniors do tell you that you need creativity, something different, something novel, so on and so forth. But you can have this in the form of the creativity only if you take up all these steps. Without taking up these fundamental steps, you cannot reach this stage. That is the stage of something called as the creativity. Okay, unless and until ये जो मैंने discuss किया है, ये one by one in a very systematic manner you are supposed to take it up, and then only you would reach this stage. So students, this is what I wanted to share in today's introductory lecture. If you want to know the other technical stuff, you don't worry about that. You can raise your questions and queries. My colleagues would answer that. You don't worry about that. Again, keep in mind, as far as the civil services examination is concerned, there is a format of that. So you read the syllabus carefully, you check out the PYQs, read those PYQs very carefully, and whatever we discuss as part of A, plan, and B, the preparation. So please be very, very careful, be meticulous right from the beginning, so that you would face what, less and less number of difficulties. Yeah, even if you face difficulties, you would be better placed to deal with those difficulties. So that's it. A very good night, and let us meet tomorrow with my colleague. Thank you.